The Keep is the new boss map added with episode 1. Basically all of the stuff that drops there is best in slot. It's a great farm to get going with. The Arcanist helmet most notably will basically turn your first defense fused regardless of what set you're wearing. So if I were to wear it on this hero, my second and first defense would be fused. As such, that's a pretty good way to skip farming Ancient. So for this video, I'm going in with only defenses that require guard to be fused. Wisps are really strong right now, so I'm going to use them, of course. I've got fused guard on my Warden here, 7,000 power, 4,000 rate, 4,000 range, and 4 to 5 for my Wisps. My gas traps are also fused at 7,000 range. I'll be placing ensnares with this monk. He's in fused militia, so his first defense will not be fused, and he's got 7,000 range as well. I've got electric auras going in with 7,000 range and 5,800 power, 5,000 rate. Finally, I'll need an EV for overclocks and reflect fields. She's got 7,000 power. To be able to do this run with such low stats, I'm gonna be playing very actively on a rogue. He's in fused militia. This isn't that big of a deal. All it does is fuse his third device, so this won't make or break the run if you don't have a set of fused militia. However, I would recommend putting him in fused something, that way you at least get rift armor. My pet on him is a propeller cat, and I am using a fused Wolfsbane sniper. This one's from campaign, nothing special about it. It does have 0.15 attack rate, which is the fastest it can go, and these passives are pretty good, I would say. This fused Wolfsbane claymore is from a survival run, however, I'm not using melee damage during this run, and this could be any sword really, as long as it matches the set with your crossbow. Here I've got Inspired Assault, pretty sure that's the only set he can use. 20% increased damage. Something to keep in mind is that if you have a main stat of about 9,000 or higher, this becomes completely AFK. You don't have to shoot down copters, you don't have to close portals, none of that stuff. You can let the map run and speed run it basically. For what it's worth, here's a look at the stats on my rogue: 2,200 vitality, 3,900 attack, 3,200 or 3,300 ability, and I've got 6,800 or so power. That's the main stat for him. I would say power is the most important stat, followed by 4,200 range, 4,800 rate, and 3,295 fortify. All right, those are my stats. Let's jump into the Keep for a wave 23 start. Now, I do like the Arcanist helmet being able to fuse your first defense straight up. You can skip farming Ancient, which is pretty sweet. So I'm going to start with building some Wisps here. And this might look like a weird place for this to go. The reason it's here is because sometimes during the boss fight, if it's up here, a Dark Elf can come over and beat it down, and then if that's gone, your Wisps will do literally nothing and you'll lose. So I'm going to start with 9 Wisps right here, and I'm starting them right on this big square tile that kind of sticks out. That's where I'm starting these. I'm going to do 3 lines of 3, and what this is going to allow me to do is basically pack them all onto a 3DU buff beam. The placement for this buff beam is pretty deliberate. It's going to allow me to place a couple of auras that'll also be on this beam, and that's kind of where the value starts to stack up with this build. I try to slam everything onto beams as cleverly as I could when I was working on this build. So I'm going to drop a 3DU buff beam right down the middle line of these Wisps. That's going to allow the sidelines there, all 9, to be boosted by that 1 overclock. I'm going to jump over and drop a 1DU reflect field here, and I'm lining this up such that it's on the right side of those trace lines coming in. That way those enemies will be covered, and I can do the same on the other side. That way I cover 2 lanes with a single 1DU reflect field. Sometimes this isn't necessary if just by chance a mage or something makes it through the line here. So I'm going to swap over to, this is my electric aura monk. This will be fused. Drop it over here just to make sure it's on the beam. If it's not, I'll move it. There we go. And it's on the beam. So swapping over to a standard electric aura, not fused here. And it's on the beam. Now, you don't need a lot of power for your ensnare auras. If they're on a beam, they'll hit the power cap pretty early on with power. Finally, I'm going to drop a gas trap here as well. I'm going to split this one between the 2 lanes here. This does not need to be on a beam. It's perfectly effective without the help of an overclock. So I'm going to jump over here, drop a gas trap or poison trap right here on this little platform. And I'm going to do the same thing with the auras here. A fused electric and a standard ensnare. I will do an overclock over here, a 3DU overclock. I'm leaving all of this stuff level 1 for now. It's easy to overspend when you upgrade and then not be able to finish the build with Wisps because there are so many of them. So I'm going to start with an Ensnare. So this particular place with an Ensnare, I think is probably the best spot to put it, because what it does is it covers the flyer lane there for Copters and Wyverns, and then it also has good coverage of this corner of the lane here. A good bit of this lane is going to be covered by that Ensnare, but then I can also fit it onto a 3DU buff beam as well as the aura stack that I'm placing over here. So I'm going to drop an Ensnare and an electric aura here, swap over for a gas trap in front of the auras, and just to be secure with this flyer lane, to really lock it down, I'm going to place a gas trap right here as well. Finally, I'm going to swap over to no Wisps, my overclocks here. I'm going to place this just inside the Ensnare, stretch it out to be a 3DU beam here. Now, that Ensnare and these auras are on the same overclock. Boom, big value. So I'm going to drop a 1DU reflect field. This is going to be, if any mages make it over here, they'll one-shot the core if they're boosted. We don't want that. So I'm going to go over to the other side. This side is done. I'm going to go over. This 58 DU is going to be for this side here, mostly. Unless I missed something. I don't think I forgot anything. So I'm going to throw an Ensnare up here in this tree. There's a very specific spot that I like this Ensnare. Right here, kind of before the little hump on this tree. What this does is it allows this Ensnare to hit this lane and these two lanes as well. It also ties up the Wyverns. Those are the bigger problem in my opinion. The Copters are not as big of an issue because you're going to be shooting them down. You'll see how this goes. But I'm going to drop an Ensnare here as well. And then let's flip back over to my Electric Aura Monk. One right there. Oh, I know what I forgot. It's by the other core. That's fine. I'm going to swap over to my gas trap here, and I'm going to do one on the left side of the auras here. That way, some of the range goes into that lane as well. And I'm going to drop a Roots of Purity here real quick. I'm going to move that, but I want 9 more Wisps over here. Same deal. I'm going to do 3 lines of 3 in the same fashion that I did. And the reason they're in this particular spot is because I find that if they're too close to the ledge on the left, a Dark Elf can jump up and hit them and do some damage. You might lose one, and if you lose one, you lose the beam. You're probably going to lose the game, especially with low stats like I have here. And if they're too close to this wall, if anything happens to hit this wall, like a snot ball or something, they'll take splash damage. We don't want that if we can avoid it. Finally, if they're too far back, then anything over here will have vision, maybe from that lane. Maybe you'd catch some ranged damage. So I like this spot in particular. I'm going to put the roots here, and this is just a precaution. Maybe it's not necessary, but if I can have it on the beam, I want it on the beam for the armor. So same deal here, down the middle line of Wisps, and on there, the overclock is also touching the Roots of Purity. It has armor, as you can see there. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 levels on the overclock. This actually matters because the Wisps get big range per upgrade, and that's going to be important. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 1. And the reason I do 3 upgrades to level 4 on this row is because I want big range. Those are going to be able to hit Jinn and stuff that are going to come out, and possibly, well, the Jinn can take that Ensnare. I don't want that. So that's the main reason I want them to be as high level as they are. So finally, I'm going to drop a Reflect right here. This Reflect is very similar to the one that I put by the other crystal where I'm covering 2 lanes with a 1DU Reflect. Mages can come in and do some damage. They'll one-shot the crystal, so you definitely want that Reflect there. All right, so I've got 3DU left. Now, there's a few things you could do with this 3DU. If you've got higher stats, you could literally just G up and it wouldn't matter. But I'm going to put a Reflect here. And what this is going to do is, just in case an Ogre makes it through this doorway here, he would come, turn, and throw a snot ball right there. This Reflect will stop that from happening, or at least it won't deal any damage. And, you know, I don't have a fused healing aura on this guy, but if you had fused healing aura, it would be really great to have it right here to help out with the boss. I'm just dropping a regular healing aura just to use the 2DU. Alternatively, there's other things you can do with this DU. If you wanted to, if you had problems with the short lane over here, you could drop a Roots of Purity right here and another Reflect. That way an ogre coming down this lane would stop, hit that wall, and it will give you extra time to react. If your stats are what mine are and you've done the upgrades the way I have, even if you get that short lane ogre, you should still be fine. So now the build is complete. I'm going to swap to my rogue, and I'm going to do the same sort of upgrades as I did on the other stack of wisps here. Same principle too. I want this range to be big. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then I'll just do 1 and 1. All right, now here's the super secret spot, the top secret spot. Don't tell anyone. I'm gonna jump on this little brick here. Doesn't look like you should be able to jump there, but you can. And then you can come up here, and I'm gonna hang out with this spider right here. This spot, beautiful spot. You're gonna see why. I'm gonna be able to do everything from this spot. First copters coming out of this lane. Our job on the rogue is to shoot down copters. You can use your devices to kill them faster, and we're also going to close the portals as they spawn. So I'm going to start shooting in G, and now I'm going to use my second and third device. As soon as he's marked, he's going to die, so I'm going to let the dots take care of him. Next thing I'm going to do is stun, and then my third device here. We've got a portal opening, and I'm going to close that. Same deal. The copters go boom, 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 back and forth. 2, 3 for the devices. He's gonna die. I'm gonna just stun and then use my third device turn away right away and close this portal here. If you leave them open, it can get a little sketchy. I'm gonna open my map here. There's the ogre. He's in a long lane, so I'm not concerned about him. Shoot down that portal. The ogre's gonna die to wisps, probably. I'm just gonna pop some shots into him just to make sure he dies. No big deal. All right, he's dead. Finally, I'm gonna take out this copter here. I'm being blocked by a tree. If it drops a full health ogre, not too worried about it. That ogre is going to die to wisps. He can't really do anything anyway. Whoops, I got hit by something. All right, so once the copters are down, you're pretty much good to go from here. Now, there is a chance that you're going to take some chip damage on a crystal. If your stats are this low and you don't have fused in snares, I'm going to head back up to my spot so I can see all the portals and stuff. If you do take chip damage, it's not that big of a deal. Usually, if anything, it's a goblin or maybe an orc takes a swing. That's been my experience in my runs testing this build. Usually what happens is I don't take crystal damage, and if I do, it's like a little chip damage from a minor enemy. So after you get through that last ogre, it's about 280, 300 enemies left or so. That's it. So you can let the wave ride and then collect at the end, or you can start collecting at about 100, 150 enemies if you want to save some time. If your stats are as low as mine, you probably should take care to collect all of the mana. I've got about 93, 9400 here. So what I'm going to do for both stacks of wisps is I'm going to upgrade the beam to level 5, so one more upgrade. And then I want all of the wisps to be level 4 now. This is going to give me big range across the entire map. Whoops, I messed up there. And it's going to make the map a lot stronger, so that way you don't really have to worry about anything. And well, you could leave the portals open. I wouldn't suggest doing that. It will run faster if you do that, but I would suggest just running the same game plan as the previous wave. But once you have all level 4 wisps, you've got, I'll show you, it's just huge range. They get a pretty substantial increase in range per level up. So I've got 23.33 meters here. If I level up once, I've got 27.23. From 23, I get an additional 4 meters of range. That's per level up. So you definitely want to take that into consideration when you're determining your upgrade priority. Once they're all level 4 though, you've got it made in the shade. The extra mana, what I would suggest is, I wasted some on an upgrade on that other side, but you could strengthen up your lanes by throwing a couple levels into each, say, other overclock and electric auras, probably the biggest priority, at least for this wave. And then the next wave, you'd maybe want to do that as well for, you could do a level or 2 in the gas traps to increase their duration. They get a 20% increase in their duration per level up, and they are your only fused crowd control if you're doing this without fused ensnares. This wave is the exact same plan, so I'm going to skip it, but what I will stress is if you really want to be careful and make sure you keep an eye on the ogres to not have a surprise attack on a crystal from a short lane ogre, if you're concerned about that, kill the third copter, aim at the fourth, and then open your map and see where the ogre is. That's about when he spawns. All right, I'll see you on the next wave. I've got all my mana collected once again heading into wave 25. So here's what I'm going to do this time. I'm going to max this beam out, and then I want all of these wisps to level 5. Now this may seem like an inconsequential decision, but it's a little rough in terms of timing to collect before the boss fight and then upgrade stuff. So I'm going to make things easier on myself. I'm going to get all of these to level 5 and max out this beam, and now they're good. I've got a healthy amount of mana left, so I'm going to go across the map and add some levels to my gas traps and my electric auras and the other overclocks to shore up the lanes and kind of strengthen the map up a little bit. I think that's a good idea, just to give yourself a little extra range and a little extra power in the lanes for dealing with the minor enemies. Can't go wrong there. So one more level up here. All right, I'm going to head into wave 25 from the same spot. One minor thing that I forgot to include for wave 24, the first copter is here. For wave 23 and 25, the first copter is here. And during the boss fight, the first copter is here. That's important. I have a very specific strategy for the boss fight. And I'm going to skip this wave and then show the upgrading and heading into the boss fight. 250 enemies left. The ogres are down. The portals are closed. I'm going to start collecting now. There's a couple tricks to collecting with your rogue to make it a little faster. His stealth increases his run speed substantially, so that's a good thing to take advantage of. You can treat it like amongst hero boost to run around a little faster. Also, his dash ability is pretty handy for traversing as well. Jumping up and over things is helpful. So for the collection route for this part of the wave, I like tracing the edges of the map, and then I check the center just to make sure I didn't miss anything substantial. Going through this way, there's a lot of mana up here. It's easy to forget it. So I'm going to make sure I get that as well. And that takes me to this stack of wisps. So I'm going to max this overclock out, and then I'm going to level each of these wisps. I'll have time to do that because this was planned. That way they'll all be level 5. Just want to make sure I don't waste any mana by maxing one of them out by accident. They are tiny. It does take a little bit of practice to, I guess, execute that. All right, I'm a little shy. I'm going to jump up. Same spot, same plan. Basically, I'm going to treat this like a wave 26. I know the first copter's here. I'm going to start shooting. I'm going to skip it. I've seen it. All right. Second, third device. He's down. Now, your map is really strong. Your wisps are upgraded. Your lane defenses are also upgraded. You're not going to have to worry about which ogre is where or anything like that right now. Once you take out 5 copters, you're good to go. The boss wave is easier because, as you can see, you've got no portals to deal with, so things are a little bit easier. That's the last copter, so where's the boss? He's right in front of me. I'm going to shoot him, and I've got a poison siren there, so that's in the back of my mind because my ensnares are not fused. Once you deal 500 or so million damage to the, yeah, see, this is the poison siren. Kind of messed me up here. You can deal the damage to the boss and not really worry about him right away because you have to plant the lure before he actually comes over. I took a little chip damage to that, that's all right. I like planting this lure better than the other one. I don't want him anywhere near that stack of wisps. He can deal damage to it if he's trying to hit you. So as soon as he comes in, I'm just going to stealth. Now he's going to stand there. He can't see me, so he can't hit me. If he can't see you, he can't hit you. When I come out of stealth, he's going to come for me. So I'm going to try to dodge his attack. He does this like tries to pull you, basically. All right, prepping 2, 1. Going to blow the trap, and I'm going to do some big damage. Taking a little bit of damage there from an orc, no big deal. I'm going to spin, deal some damage here, and he's going to run away. I don't know which core it was. Oh, it was the west core. That's fine. All right, so he's mostly dead now. I'm going to go back to my spot. The reason I'm going back up top is because I don't want to risk getting blown up. I don't want to get blown up. That's all. Okay, I can already plant another lure, so I'm going to drop a bunch of devices on him as another orc on a different core. That's totally fine. Chip damage is fine. The wisps seem to ignore orcs, and they favor the boss, which is probably what they're doing. All right, he's nearly dead right now. I'm just going to drop my carnage here and spin on him Just try to not die in the process, and he's down. So if it's your first win, what I would highly recommend going for is a Huntress weapon, because it'll make doing this easier if you have a better weapon. You'll deal more damage, and you'll be able to do more with your rogue. So I would recommend that unless you really want to go for a monk weapon, in which case feel free to pop it with your monk. So I'm going to pop the chest with my Huntress. I've got a crossbow here, 344, no ability roll. Big shock, but the weapons are going to be best in slot. You do get a random, oh, here's the Arcanist helmet. 418 is pretty good, but of course, no defense rate. These rarely have 4 stats for me, that's fine. It's a random act 4 pet. This is the pet from this map originally. It was changed recently. You do get a giraffe too, and you get 2 random pieces of fused armor. I can't really tell which is fused anymore. It's these boots, and you should get a king's face, which is an accessory. And I can't find it. I wanted to show that. Usually you get an accessory called a king's face. There it is. And this can be best in slot too. It rolls with really high stat rolls, and it's very useful. There are other specific accessories that come from this map that are extremely good. They roll with really high stats. I'll see if I can find it. This one is not one of them, but it's like a cosmetic thing, I guess. This is similar to the King's Face Lycan's Claws. Really high rolls. If anything is rolling with 200 plus stats on an accessory, that's really high. And then there's also a brooch that I rarely see. See if I can find it. That also comes from here as well. The Feral Brooch also has a chance to drop from here. Same crazy high rolls and 2 passives that the others that I showed can have as well. So that's the keep. Good luck, happy farming. Any questions, any comments, concerns, any pro strats, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.